May 21st, 1938, a quiet rural village near Tsuyama slept peacefully under the darkness. The air was still. The houses were silent. Nothing felt out of place. But somewhere in that village, a young man was awake. Preparing, he shaved his head, darkened his face, strapped flashlights to his head so he could see in the dark, and laid out his weapons with care, a rifle, a blade. Everything chosen for a reason, everything prepared in advance. By the time the sun rose, the silence of that village would be gone forever. The man was Musuo Toi, only 21 years old. But his life had already been marked by loss. He lost both of his parents when he was young. Raised by his grandmother, he lived in a traditional rural environment where community mattered deeply. But despite being surrounded by people, Toi was alone. He struggled socially, he didn't fit in. And in a small village where everyone knew each other, being different meant being noticed, and being noticed didn't always mean being accepted. As the years passed, Toi's isolation grew heavier. He wanted connection, companionship, a sense of belonging, but instead, he often felt rejected, ignored, pushed aside. At the time, social expectations in rural Japan were strict. Relationships, reputation, and roles within the community were deeply important. Toi felt like he had failed to meet those expectations. Then came the diagnosis, tuberculosis, a disease feared by many, often deadly. But beyond the physical impact, it carried something else. Stigma. People began to distance themselves. Conversations became shorter, visits became less frequent. Doors that were once open slowly closed. Toi didn't just feel isolated anymore. He felt erased, as if he no longer existed in the world around him. And over time, that feeling turned into something darker. Isolation can do something dangerous. It changes how a person sees the world. Small moments begin to feel larger. Rejections feel personal, silence feels intentional. Toi began to believe that the people around him had wronged him, that they had turned their backs on him, that they had abandoned him. His thoughts became more focused, more intense, more extreme. He began writing, leaving behind notes that revealed his state of mind, a mixture of anger, bitterness, and hopelessness. He believed his future had already been taken from him, and if he had no future, then nothing mattered anymore. At some point, his thoughts turned into action. Toi began planning, not impulsively, but carefully, deliberately. He knew the layout of the village. He knew who lived where. He understood the routines of the people around him. He prepared his weapons, a rifle for distance, a blade for close encounters. He modified his appearance, darkening his face, attaching lights to his head, so he could move through the darkness, while others remained blind. This wasn't chaos. This was calculated. Every detail mattered. Every step had been imagined. After midnight, he stepped outside. The village was silent. Everyone asleep, completely unaware. He moved through the darkness. From house to house, the attacks were sudden, confusing, disorienting. There was no warning, no time to react. In a remote village like this, there was no immediate help, no one to stop what was happening. The night that had begun in silence slowly turned into something else, something no one could have imagined. By sunrise, 30 people had lost their lives. Entire households were gone. The village was no longer the same place. What had once been quiet and peaceful was now marked by tragedy. Authorities arrived, trying to understand what had happened, trying to make sense of something that felt impossible. But the answers were not simple, because this wasn't just an act of violence. It was the result of something that had been building for a long time. After the attack, Toi fled into the nearby hills. The search began as daylight spread across the village. Eventually he was found, alone, with nowhere left to go. In that final moment, he ended his own life, bringing the night to an end, but leaving behind a story that would never be forgotten. The Tsuyama Massacre remains one of the darkest events in Japan's history, not just because of what happened, but because of what led to it: a quiet life, gradual isolation, unspoken pain, feelings that grew in silence. Until they became something uncontrollable, it's easy to focus on the night itself. But the truth is, that night didn't begin in darkness. It began much earlier, in moments no one noticed, and changes no one questioned. In a life that slowly drifted further and further away. Because sometimes, the most dangerous stories don't begin with action, they begin quietly. And by the time anyone realizes what's happening, it's already too late. Some stories end when the facts are told, but others stay with you long after. If this is the kind of story that makes you think, question, and look deeper, then stay with Unknown Narrator. There are many more stories like this, waiting to be uncovered, and each one reveals something different about history, about people, and about the darkness we don't always see coming. So keep watching, because the next story might change the way you see everything.